Hey everyone, welcome to the Rise and Above podcast, a platform for you to share your story. Oftentimes, we all have something that happens to us in life and we have no way of sharing. Many people want an outlet, whether it's writing a book or going on a massive networking platform or starting an inspirational social media account. With the Rise and Above platform, anyone with an inspiring, motivating, or interesting story can come on and share. It could be anything from the struggles of starting a business, the struggles of overcoming homelessness or mental illness. I've interviewed victims of rape, sexual assault, and abuse. There is no subject that is off limits. This platform offers a safe and fun way for you to share your story through a one-on-one experience. If you would like to share your story, the best way to reach out would be through social media. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook or through email. All the links will be provided in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the Rise and Above podcast. My name's David Hess, and today I have Micheal Gillmore with me. He is on the show The Ultimate Fighter. He was just picked up just recently, and anyways, I don't want to ruin the introduction. I want him to introduce himself and tell the tell the audience who he is and where he's from and whatnot. So I guess without further ado, Micheal, are you from the Lansing area?
So it's a weird story, and I'll try not to get too much into small details that don't matter. So technically, yes. So I was born in Lansing. My mom's from Michigan.
Okay.
She met my dad in Arizona when she was visiting her grandfather, and they met, and my dad moved here after, I think my mom moved there first or something, but my dad moved here. I was born, he's originally from California. He went through one winter here and was like, I'm out. So told my mom basically, you can come with me or not. And so before I was 2, I believe, I was in Arizona. So I consider myself being from Tucson, Arizona, but technically I was born in Lansing. So it kind of came full circle to where I'm back in the Lansing area. I live in Charlotte now. My wife and I moved there about a year ago.
Oh, cool.
So kind of from Lansing, born but raised in Tucson, Arizona.
Now, you're fighting out of Lansing, Michigan, right?
Correct. Yep. We are with Murcielago MMA. We are sharing space with Simmons Academy of Wrestling right now.
Where's that at? Where's that located?
It's on South Cedar Street, across from the John Bean building.
Oh,
the
okay.
vacant building there is where we were at for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we joined Simmons Academy, which is basically across the street, there's that like little car wash there, and then right behind that is where his gym's at.
Okay. Now, how long have you been in MMA?
I am coming up on 10 years in MMA.
Wow.
So I started a little bit after college. I played college football. I was trying to get into the NFL or Canadian Football League.
Wow.
I dislocated my knee my senior year of football, and that kind of ruined it. I did get my speed back, never got my jumping back. Really messed up a lot of stuff in my knee. And when I came back to Michigan, and I was still rehabbing my knee, it just didn't happen. And I kind of fell into MMA. I had watched, I went to school in Tucson, right? I was raised there. I went to school with Dominic Cruz. And when I was rehabbing my knee, I saw a commercial for a fight in Columbus, Ohio. And said Dominic Cruz. So I'm laying there, I'm still on like massive surgery drugs. I think I just spent an hour looking at a TV that wasn't on. And I was in a machine that like would bend my leg for me. And I saw Dominic Cruz, and Facebook was still just for college people. It didn't like expand out to anybody. So it was really harder to keep in touch with friends back then. And I was like, man, really, it's Dominic Cruz fighting in this? And I didn't follow MMA all through college. It was school and football is all that I focused on. And so I went down to Columbus, Ohio, watched him fight, fell in love with fighting, just watching him. And then when I was done with football, I was still in the Lansing area, and I just passed a sign that said live MMA fights tonight. And so I went, I think it was at the Causeway Bay Hotel.
Okay.
I think that's where I was at. It was a TWC show, I believe, local promotion. And I just sat and watched. And about 10 years ago when I started, there was no commission in Michigan. It was basically the Wild West of MMA here. And I was just sitting in the crowd, and somebody had walked by and was like, hey, do you want to fight tonight? And I was like, nope. No, definitely not. And they were like, well, we get you a mouthpiece and a cup and all that. And I was like, nope, I'm just here to watch. And I watched some of the fights, and after falling in love with it, watching Dominic win his belt and thinking I would like to try it, I just asked around, like, where's the best place to train? Who's the best team? And without fail, it was virtually 100% of people said Murcielago MMA. And so finding them was hard. It's a pretty exclusive group, and they don't let everybody in. And so I went up there, I trained, they beat my ass for a little bit, and they accepted me in their team, and I've just been with them the whole time.
So what does it take to get into Murcielago? You said it's a pretty exclusive group. I've tried finding them on social media. There's really not much of a presence. There's not really a website. There's nothing.
And how I found them, I looked them up, and there was an email address. There was nothing else to find, no address. And I emailed that address, and it happened to be our head coach, Coach Joaquin. And he said, yeah, go ahead and come through. And it was at the John Bean building, so the front door is locked. There's no way to get in, not a buzz or anything. And we're on the second floor. And I was like, I don't even know how to get in this place. It's dark, real sketchy looking place. And somebody else on the team had pulled up, because I got there early for practice, and somebody else on the team had pulled up. He picked up a rock and just chucked it up at the window. And that let somebody know to come down and let us in. So that's kind of how we got in. But the exclusivity, what I mean is when you come in, you're expected to work hard. We fight, at practice pretty hard. And a lot of people just don't make it. They can't cut it. We don't want part-timers in there. We want people who take it serious. And taking it serious doesn't even mean you necessarily have to compete or want to go to the next level, but go in there and practice hard and compete, and even just be a body and help everybody else. Most of the people who come through the door are almost never come back. And
Wow.
And that may be true in other MMA gyms as well, because it's a hard sport, but definitely in ours. And I know when I first came in, there was no introductory class. There wasn't on Tuesdays at this time, it's beginners. Wednesdays this time. So a lot of big gyms that I've gone out to, either on vacation or visiting home in Arizona, they have separated classes for new people, their pro class, their amateur class, and they have amateur tryouts. With us, it's just a tryout for the team. You come in, and there was no like, okay, this is how you throw a punch. So I had a football background, and I wrestled from middle school all the way through high school, and I didn't know anything about MMA. First day, sparring. Just got some gloves from like Walmart, I think, really crappy shin pads, and just got my butt beat. But being the competitor that I am, I was like, all right, I'm going to get them the next time. And I didn't get anybody for a while, but I kept coming back. And that's when the people who make it and stay, those are the true fighters.
Now, do you guys have like belt tests, or is everybody at different? Obviously, there's different levels. So you could be coming in off the street fighting a black belt, essentially.
Yeah, so we don't have any belting system with regard to MMA or jiu-jitsu right now. Recently,
Okay.
we brought in a jiu-jitsu coach who could take us under his wing, and belt us, because he's able to do that. We have a combat karate instructor. It's called Goatee, and he will do a belting system, but most of that is based on kung fu. A lot of stand-up, some groundwork, but mostly stand-up. So I have a brown belt in that. But with like jiu-jitsu or anything like that, there's no belting system. It's basically, our coach calls us a bunch of misfits. So we're not in a fancy place. We don't have fancy equipment. It's all old school stuff. I'm pretty sure the mats that we've been trained on had been there for 50 years probably, it seemed like. So it's nothing fancy like the big commercial gyms or anything like that. Just a lot of blue collar hard work.
Wow. So going in, how long were you training before you had your first fight?
I was training 6 months before I had my first amateur fight, which is fairly early, because Coach Joaquin is very protective of his name personally and the Murcielago name. So he doesn't like people accepting their fights rogue, and he won't co-sign on something that he thinks is just dumb. So there's stupid fights to take. There's tough fights to take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're out there trying to take stupid fights, and some fighters, journeyman fighters, are fighting simply for a paycheck, and it's not win or loss. They've got massive records one way or the other, and they'll just go fight wherever. He's protective of his name because he's built a brand. And so for me, fighting in 6 months, I made some pretty big strides and had a pretty good athletic base, being a college football player and, wrestling and all that. So I built up enough, I guess, trust in him. He called me on a Wednesday and was like, hey, do you want to fight Saturday? And I was like, I guess, if you think I'm ready. So it was about 6 months from stepping into the door to stepping into the cage.
Wow, that's insane. And did you win?
I did. I won by TKO in the second round. The best advice that I ever got to this day was from Daquan Townsend, local MMA fighter, UFC vet as well. He just said, hit him first. And that seems obvious, but a lot of amateur fights or first-time fighters, they might be okay in the gym or they might feel ready. But when you get hit with the small gloves, and if you're not ready for it, it hurts. And so being the first one to make the touch, whether it's hard, whether it's a kick or a punch, it doesn't have to be a power shot. Just if you're the first one making the touch, it kind of does something that gets you into the fight to where the punches that you receive or you don't miss, they don't hurt as bad while you're in there. So that's something in that first fight that I've taken with me throughout my entire career. I tried to touch first. Whatever that means, whether it's a takedown or a punch or a kick, I try to do that, and that started way back in my very first fight.
That's awesome. So I would assume it probably kind of sets a tone for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how my career could have gone. I remember the first thing I did, I stepped in with a hard jab and snapped the kid's head back. And if that would have happened to me, who knows? I mean, I know that I would like to think, I'm competitive. Somebody hits me, all right, it's time to go. But I think that was setting the tone to, from that first fight to where I'm at now.
Now, how did you land the nickname the Gentleman?
So that former coach of ours gave me that name, and he tells me it's twofold on how he gave it to me. So the company I used to work for when I was first starting fighting, wearing a suit was a requirement. And so I would go from work to practice. So I would show up to practice wearing a suit, get into my gear, and practice. And then my very first fight, after the first round, I ended the round on top of my opponent. And when the round ended, we stood up, but I helped him up. And that comes from football. So way back when I first started football, my dad said, if you run somebody over or you make a tackle and you're on top of them, help them up, next play, knock them down again. And it was just something that my dad instilled with me all through sport, and I just didn't even think, it wasn't like, I should help this kid. It just happened.
It's good sportsmanship.
Yep. And so I don't remember if it was my fourth or fifth amateur fight. They were trying to give me nicknames. I was like, I don't want a nickname. I just want to be myself. And that coach in one of my fights gave the nickname to the announcer without my knowledge, and when he said that, it just stuck.
Wow.
So
my buddy Cipriano I was telling you about, he sent me the video of you being interviewed by Dana White for The Ultimate Fighter, and he was like, yeah, his nickname's the Gentleman. He really is like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. And I said, that's kind of crazy that he's going into a cage bashing people's faces in.
Yeah, so there's people go into fighting for various reasons, and I fight because I love to compete. I go in there, and I guess by virtue of the sport, you are trying to hurt the person. But that's not my mentality. I'm not angry when I'm in there.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need to find something to fight about.
Right.
I don't need that. I don't have that.
You don't have any inner demons
no.
or anything?
Well, they might be there, but it's nothing that's prevalent. I don't need to psych myself up for a fight. And actually, before a fight, I think I fit in the mold of most fighters as being terrified. So most men, whether it's as a kid or as an adult, have been in some sort of fight, whether it's with a friend or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and those just happen. It's impromptu. You fight. There's no time to think about it. When you are scheduled for a fight, after the weight cut, so the weight cut's the first part, that consumes most of your mental energy,
mm-hmm.
Is getting down to weight. But once that's done, and then you have the next 24 to 36 hours to know, like, man, I'm about to go fight somebody. You're like, why do I do this? Like, I've got a college degree. Why am I in there going to fight somebody? And there's a competitive drive. And then the high of winning is a massive drug. If they can put that in a pill, everybody would be on it. But the lows of losing are the worst. So just that adrenaline search of that win is why I fight. It's not to be angry or to be mad
mm-hmm.
at anybody. And I really do just try to treat most people with respect, because it's just nice to do. Now, if somebody comes at me and is disrespectful, I usually just stay away from them. Like, I just don't need you in my life. So I think that's how I approach life. That's how I approach fighting, is just to be respectful to the other person. I know the other person wants to compete. They're trying to win. They're trying to get that high that I'm searching for as well. And whatever happens at the end of the day, it happens. And then after the fight, it's all done.
Now, you said you ask yourself after you're done with your wake up, why do I do this to myself? Why do you?
At that moment, I can't find, almost never can find an answer. But when I'm in the cage and all of that goes away, right? The fear goes away, the anxiety's still there, but then the game plan, the preparation, that part starts to kick in, and I've transferred the college football preparation into MMA. So I watch film on my opponents. I try to look for tendencies. I look for, watch their fights. Do they come out a certain way each time? Is there something that they do every time? Because everybody has patterns. And so once I'm in the cage, the fear or the why I do this, that part is all gone. It's now into the game plan mode of, okay, he's going to come out and do one of these things. I've prepared for those things as a response. And again, which is the exact same thing that you do in college football. In college football, an offense at least has 10 plays scripted based on the other team's defense from film the week before and years of playing that team before, or maybe that defensive coordinator. You want to see, okay, if I'm now 3-by-1, are they still going to be in cover 2? How are they going to rotate their safety? So those first 10 plays in college football and professional football aren't to do anything but to see if the defense has made any changes. And so I've transferred that into my mentality of MMA. But I also do the same thing when I corner my teammates. So I try to be like the brain behind all of that versus being like a brute force or something like that, and really think of MMA in a different way that most common people don't look at it and won't see it if they're just casual fans, or even like hardcore fans that have never fought may not think of those things going through the fighters' minds, and they have to go through your mind in rapid succession. In football, you can run a play, upstairs sees it, they call down to the coach, they get the next play. In MMA, if I come out and let's say I'm preparing for an orthodox fighter and he comes out lefty, southpaw, I immediately have to adjust right away. Nobody's calling from upstairs saying, hey, he's southpaw, go to this particular play. And I think they'll bring in that mentality over into MMA, and when I get in there, all of the why and all of that is all gone from the anxiety, and I go right into the game plan. The why that I do it, when I think about it, soberly, not in that fear moment, getting your hands ready, all the anxiety, is really the competition. And now I was just married in June.
Oh, congrats.
And have, a new stepdaughter. I mean, basically, our relationship has been like a father role, but now it's like official, right? So they have become, a big why for me. Can I do something that I love to do and support them? Because that is more important than myself.
Right.
And that is becoming the greater why now. And before, it's just competition. I never expected this to be where I'm at now. When I first started, I was devastated. I was never going to play professional football because that was the goal since I was 7 when I started. And just one play, one injury took all of that away. And I just wasn't done competing. And I didn't get to go out on my terms. And I found this sport, and it was just the competition, the love, and the drive of competing. And now I just have an additional why of a family.
And you're on your way to doing it professionally.
I hope so.
I mean, you already are kind of doing it professionally.
Yeah, so MMA is a little bit different with that. So I've been professional for, I think, 4 years now.
Okay.
But
how many pro fights have you had?
9.
9.
6-3 currently.
Wow.
As an amateur, I was 9-2.
Okay.
So when you make the jump to pro and MMA, I would say it's the easiest sport to say you're professional in, right? Because you can do a couple amateur fights, and then you can get your license, get your medicals done, and then find a promoter. There's a bunch of them out there, and you can have a pro fight, and then you can go the rest of your life and saying, I was a pro fighter. That was my first goal with doing it, was
just to become pro.
Professional football was taken away from me, and I was like, I just don't want all those years of work to be for nothing. And I was just a guy, and be the old man and be like, oh, I used to play football, I used to do this stuff, and I could have done X, Y, and Z, and just, I didn't want to say or have that, I used to be this guy. We all know people who did that, and it's fine.
I can't stand that.
And it's fine. And some of those people might be telling the truth. They might have, a nostalgic look of their past, and embellish a little bit, which is fine, however they want to look at it. But they know of, did I succeed in the way that I wanted to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started and I found out how it all goes, I was like, I can certainly do this and just have a pro fight. And so along the way, it's just been very small increments of improvement. So I had that pro fight, and then just like I told you, that drug of winning, I was like, I won, so I can just do another one. And then the second one, I took on like 5 days notice. It was a favor, because somebody had dropped out. Hindsight 2020, as a professional, you should never do that at a smaller level when you're not ready, because your professional record stays with you. It was a fight that I stepped in, short notice, had to cut a lot of weight, dominated the first round, and had no gas for the second round. And again, it's learning experience, all that. But then that was the lowest of the lows of losing. And I was like, I can't go out like that. And I won. And then I was like, great, I'm going to chase that again. So it's just like, it's almost a never-ending cycle of this. So I've been a professional for that time. I've been fighting professional on local, regional cards. I was scheduled before the pandemic to fight for my first title fight as a professional, but COVID shut down all of that, and obviously the country, and so there's no fights happening, almost no training happening, and so it was mostly local and regional stuff until I was able to get on the Ultimate Fighter show.
Wow, that's insane. So what is, kind of going back, like you were talking about you're not really stressed out going into a cage. What is your mentality like going into a fight? And how do you, because I could imagine, like, if I was going into a fight, I'd be nervous. Just like waiting for you to get here. I was kind of nervous for the podcast. I'm like, this guy's probably a little bit intimidating. I don't know.
No, I hope not.
But no, not at all. You're a super cool guy.
I hope so, yes.
You're super cool.
Watching.
And I enjoy talking to you, and you're very well thought out person. So I was kind of nervous, but so I could imagine going into a fight that I would be nervous as well. What do you do to calm your nerves? What's your protocol before a fight?
So
minus obviously the weight cutting and
right. The weight cutting is the worst part about it. Almost any fighter will tell you that. And once that's over, so in the cage, it's almost weird to explain, but it goes back to the game planning, the preparation. Am I ready for the fight? If you're not ready for the fight, I would imagine the nerves consume you much more. Anxiety in a fight is fantastic. We need anxiety. It's the fight or flight, right? So you're in a situation where it's either this guy or me. Once that cage shuts, I don't know if it's ever happened. It might have been, but like nobody's like, oh, okay, no, I changed my mind. Like I'm out, right? So you have to do it. You're forced to do that. And I mean, you signed up for it, right? So you have to do it. So the anxiety is good because it's like, I don't want to get my butt kicked. I don't want to get hit. So I have to do that to him. So in the cage, when I'm there, whether I'm the first or second out and I'm in the corner, the coach is giving me reminders from the game plan, getting some water, and it's just running through like the football game plan, the 10 plays. If he comes out and is he going to come out like I saw in the last film, fast, or is he going to come out slow? Is he going to come out and throw the jab, or is he going to come out and throw power? Some people dance around a little bit. Some people will come and just stand right there in front of you. So in that moment in the cage, the anxiety is there because of a fight's about to happen. But in my mind, it's all of the previous preparation. At my house, I've got a sauna in my basement.
What kind of sauna do you have?
It's an infrared sauna. It's a 3-person sauna. Highly recommended. If
I want one.
So afterwards, I can show you the website that I got it. They have an outlet section on their website, and I got it for about half price.
Oh, wow.
Because they guarantee the inner workings of it are perfect, but you might have some cosmetic damage to the outside, which is in my basement. I don't care. There's like a small crack in the wood on the back of my sauna, and I got it for half price. So
wow.
Yeah, I'll share that with you afterwards if
awesome.
you want. But sitting across from my sauna is a TV on the wall, and I watch film. And so when I'm in the cage and I'm walking back and forth, it's those thoughts that are going through my mind. I'm working on my breathing, trying to get as much oxygen as I can in my blood, so that my muscles don't fatigue early. The adrenaline dump is a very real thing, and if you're not focused on your breathing, or if you're too nervous and you have too much nervous energy, that adrenaline dump will happen. It happened in my first pro fight. I was so nervous. It was the first. My dad was there all the way from Arizona. A lot of people came to watch me, do the thing that I'd set out to do since I was 7 years old, become a professional athlete. And I didn't calm those nerves down. And I think it was about 2 minutes into the first round, my coach is yelling out the time, and he goes 2 minutes. In an amateur fight is 3 minutes per round. In a professional fight is 5 minutes per round. And I remember thinking, I was like, damn, I've got 3 more minutes of this round, and my arms already feel that they're 1,000 pounds. My legs feel so heavy. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to push through this. And it's mental, because they're not 1,000 pounds. You can still throw them. But that adrenaline dump is massive. So if you don't calm your nerves enough, and you don't focus on your breathing, you don't worry about the game plan, that will happen to almost every single fighter.
Now, what is training like? Are you training in karate? You kind of mentioned that you're training in a mix of things.
Yeah.
What martial arts are you training in?
So my weeks right now are based. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I do strength and conditioning.
Okay.
We have our strength and conditioning coach, Justin Hardig, out of the Human Performance Institute in DeWitt. It's off Airport Road over there. He's a former NFL football player. Charlotte alum as well, and he is. I think he's got his PhD. He's working towards his PhD. He's brilliant when it comes to strength and conditioning. He is also a fighter. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a handful of us are at his place, and he's got workouts designed for fighters. And he's got other athletes, professional athletes, football, baseball, but he is able to not only educationally, but from being a fighter himself, tailor his workouts for us to where we're building the strength that we need.
What kind of workouts are you guys doing?
All kinds of stuff.
Like explosive things?
Sometimes explosive, sometimes soft tissue workouts. So like last week we did a series of workouts that weren't high intensity. I didn't leave tired, but they were needed to kind of reset the muscles, get some movement, work on the smaller muscles that are neglected during the workouts that focus on the bigger, more explosive muscles. So every bit he's thought out. But like yesterday, we did 10 rounds of a circuit training workout where they were 1 minute each. And when you're in a 5-minute fight for 3 rounds, you can't look at it as 5 minutes. We do mentally break it up into sections of the fight. And so a workout like that, you're pushing a certain thing for a minute, and you get a little bit of a break. So some action happens in a fight, and then maybe there's separation, there's that break. That's when you're focused on your breathing. That's when you're focused on getting your oxygen back in, and then you're right back in it. And we did 10 rounds of that. That was yesterday's workout.
Wow.
So he focuses on everything. It's fantastic. He's been working with us. I think I had a Facebook memory where I've personally been working with him. It used to be just for camps. Now it's all the time, but for like 5 years.
Wow.
But now that he's been more consistent with our guys going with him, it's a fantastic asset to have his knowledge and just focus for us. You get some strength and conditioning coaches that might be internet trained, or and they might be big or jacked themselves, but we as fighters, big and jacked doesn't do anything for you. You need to be able to be strong and lean, because if you're big and jacked, that weight cut, you got to stay within a certain weight class. In college football, I was eating whole hot and ready pizzas, all the cardio or calories I could possibly
What position did you play?
Wide receiver.
Okay.
But I weighed about 210 playing college football.
What do you weigh right now?
195 probably, and I typically fight at 170. The show was a middleweight. The contestants that I was at was the middleweight 185, so I didn't have to get all the way down to 170 for it. Some of those guys are pretty big. But just having somebody with that expertise is is fantastic for us. With regard to the martial arts, it depends on the day. Monday we will do boxing. Tuesdays are typically wrestling. Wednesdays we'll do more of a kickboxing type workout. Thursdays we've got a jiu-jitsu coach that comes in, so it's all ground work. And then Fridays we try to put it all together with MMA sparring.
So you're training pretty much every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
5 days a week. If something tweaks, yesterday, I worked out with HPI, with my strength and conditioning. I taught a Muay Thai class over with him to help him out. So I did 2 workouts yesterday, but I skipped the MMA workout. My low back was bothering me a little bit, and I needed to be ready for today. For jiu-jitsu. So sometimes you take it off. You got to listen to your body, which is something also that through time I've learned is equally as important as the workout is
Right.
the resting period. When I grew up being an athlete, there was it was no rest. It was the most work you can put in, the better. If you're sitting there, the other guy's working, so you better go work.
Right.
And that's how you create injuries. That's how you shorten careers, not lengthen them. The recovery and letting your body work through its injuries and heal itself is equally as important. So most of the time we're 5 days a week, or I'm personally 5 days a week. The gym is going 5 days a week. But there are days that if your body's not feeling it, it's more important to take it off than not.
Now, you said you have a sauna. What kind of things are you doing for recovery? Like I have it's called a Tim Tam.
I've got the Tim Tam as well.
Oh,
Yep.
I love that thing.
Yeah. So
which one do you have? Because I have the one that just has the 1 speed.
the one speed, the one that's super loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. People are coming in, the real quiet ones. I was like,
Yep,
can I
the
get one of those?
Theraguns.
Yep. So I've got that. The foam rollers, stretching. Obviously, the sauna is massive. If you can get in something like that for 20 minutes, I usually am there for longer. But
how long are you
doing? A few
doing?
times a week, probably about 40 minutes.
What heat?
In there? So
What's the temp?
the infrared sauna only goes up to 140, so it's a different than like a dry sauna that can get up like 200, 190 or something.
Right.
So the air itself doesn't feel that hot, but I think about 15, 20 minutes in, you're just pouring sweat.
I bet.
So I do that. I've got the, I can't remember the brand. They're the compression boots.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That really help
Like
with
Nortec or whatever.
I couldn't afford those, but yes, that's the main brand. But something like that where I put those on and let my, let it circulate the blood in my legs. I do cupping quite a bit. I got a set off Amazon that areas sore, shoulders or something, back. We'll put that on there. When I can afford it, I like to go and get some sports massages. Those are huge. I just you got to pay for those, and I don't want a spa setting where it's relaxed. I want the person to like be.
Dig.
I don't want it to feel good during. And the lady that I go to, Carrie, she is real good at that. She beats me up the whole time. It's not really pleasurable during, but afterwards I feel really good.
My wife and I just had a couples massage last week, and it was a deep massage. And I guess I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast. Never mind. But yeah, we had a couples massage, and I haven't had one in a while. And I told them I wanted a deep massage, and like they were just grinding. The lady was just taking her elbow and grinding my shoulder, and it felt so good.
I think some massage therapists, when you tell them that, it's like a challenge. They're like, I'm gonna make them tap. I think they have that mentality too, and I'm like, keep going.
Dude, she almost had me tapping, and I was like, no, I just need to breathe, just get through it. But yeah, it was relaxed. It was relaxful afterwards.
Yeah. So those types of things for recovery are important. I would like to do more ice baths. We only have one tub in our house, but more cold type therapy also, because I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast a lot.
Yeah.
Some of the experts that he has on there that talk about recovery, the ice baths or cold
Cryo.
showers. Yeah, cryotherapy is great, but that's also expensive.
Have you done it?
Yeah, a handful of times.
Okay.
When we're in Las Vegas and we're at the UFC Performance Institute, they've got a cryo chamber there, and also they've got a hot jacuzzi right next to a ice cold jacuzzi. And so when I'm there and those services are available, I definitely do them, and it feels great.
And do you notice a significant difference in how you feel?
Definitely.
Yeah.
After the cold shower or bath or whatever, immediately during it's awful, but you immediately feel refreshed, almost like you didn't practice, and it
Wow.
really does well with your muscles and joints and all that stuff.
Wow, that's impressive. Um, I had another question regarding this. I don't remember what it was. So how did you make it on The Ultimate Fighter? What was that process like? You had to obviously try out for it.
So, well, COVID made it a little bit different. So the filming of it was supposed to be in January.
Okay.
I was watching one of the UFC cards, can't remember, and they advertised that they were bringing back The Ultimate Fighter, and it. I was looking for the application for it. They showed middleweights and for bantamweights, and I was like, okay, I'll just apply and see what happens, because you have to have a minimum of 3 fights before they would even consider you to be on the show. And then so I looked for the application, couldn't find it anywhere online. And my job before this, I was an investigator for an insurance company, investigating insurance fraud. And so I was like, how can I not find? My job is to find stuff. If it's there and they're telling me that they're doing the season and the application, I can't find it. I couldn't find it. I don't know where it was at. But at one of my practices, a teammate of mine, who's a bantamweight, said that he had applied. And I was like, where did you get this application? He said his management company sent it to him. And so I got in touch with his management company, and they sent me the application, and they sent it in for me. And we were supposed to go out to Vegas like November 30th for the interviews, the tryouts, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of COVID, it got pushed back to supposed to be January, and then it was like indefinitely like canceled. And so it was almost removed from my mind as a possibility, because I didn't know they're gonna do the show or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then randomly I got an email from one of the producers, and they let me know what the next process were. Because of COVID, they didn't actually fly us out. They did Zoom interviews and meetings like that. And so I worked through the process, went through that meeting, and then we went out to Vegas for the pre-show medicals. So they brought more people out than they were going to cast. So they cast 8 of each weight class.
Okay.
But we were quarantined in a hotel. The only time we were leaving was to do the medicals. And it makes sense that they bring out more, because if somebody fails something in the medical, they've got enough people there for the show.
Right.
And so I've been quarantined for like a week or so. I think right before a week, one of the producer comes in, and I could tell on his face that I was like, this doesn't look like good news, because we knew that they would have more people out there than they needed,
Mm-hmm.
and then the others would be considered alternates. And so the producer came in, and he said, we'll just get right to it. You're an alternate. And the reason that he told us is because on the Saturday show, so I got told on a Friday that I was an alternate. On that Saturday show, they were going to release the cast on the UFC card on TV, and they knew that we would all be watching it in the hotel.
Right.
And so they had to go around and tell the people that they're alternates. And
How did they come up with that decision? Did
they
you try out for it?
I don't know.
They just randomly.
Yeah, I think it's probably a panel of probably the producers and
Mm-hmm.
UFC staff, and the people that they choose to bring out there, even at that stage, are people that they believe
Are the best.
couldn't do well in the show.
Right.
But then they narrow it down to the people that they think of that group are the best ones to choose, and I just didn't have to be one of them. And I didn't take it personally. I know that it's a
Mm-hmm.
business. They've got the producers have a show to run, and the
Right.
UFC has the obligation that that they're putting the best fighters out there. So I didn't take it personally. What hurt me inside was that I had to quit my job because they didn't allow me to have the leave of absence to go out for the show.
I was watching that interview with Dana White, and he's like, "It's giving me chills."
Yeah,
It's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, so I had a job. I'd been in the insurance industry for about 10 years as well, almost the same amount of time I'd been fighting. And I had a good job, company car, insurance, benefit, like health insurance benefits, for all that stuff,
Mhm.
salary job, and the company didn't allow the leave of absence. I needed more time than I had vacation for.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, can I don't even want just unpaid, because by the time the filming is done, I can be back well before the position can be posted, before you can interview, before you can run the background checks,
Right.
and hire somebody and train them. And anyways, I'm the best person for this job. I've been doing it for 5 years. I don't want payment for this time off. I understand that, but I want to go do this. And they didn't adjust their company policy for leave, and that's their prerogative, I guess. You know,
They also have a business to run.
Yeah, I think I laid out a good argument of why it was in their best interest business-wise to allow me to take that time off. The coworkers that I worked with were fantastic, and were not. They were not like, oh no, They were like, yeah, we'll cover for you. Go do this.
Oh, cool.
And so I had great people around me, and you know, to an extent, my boss was understanding, and she'd been supportive the whole time. Where my vacation wherever I work is very sporadic. I almost never take vacation for myself. It's always, I got to go corner somebody. I got to be in this state, and it's you know, last minute sometimes. One time, you know, I had to go 10 days. I had to leave in 10 days to go to Abu Dhabi to corner Daquan and Joaquin Buckley, and they were great with all of that. They just, above her, wouldn't adjust the that policy, which again, as a private company, you can. I don't know why they chose not to, but again, that's their decision, and I'm not mad at anybody for it. It's slightly disappointing because I know that I did good work. I know that I do good work, but you know, it is what it is. But I couldn't not take that opportunity. But when I was told that I was the alternate, like it was like a sinking feeling, because you know, at that point I wasn't married yet, but it was coming up, and I was like, man, I got this family. I just quit a job, and that was the first moment where I would question my decision. I was like, damn. And so I was like, so what happens from here? And they said, well, you're an alternate. And the producer said, there's never been a season where we haven't had an alternate. And I was like, but how does that go? Because they were talking about bringing me back to Michigan. And they're like, well, if we need you, we'll call you back. And my dad lives in Vegas now. His job moved him there a few years back. And so I talked with my wife, and I was like, I'm going to just stay here with my dad for a little bit. I already quit my job, so nothing to come back to. And so I'm just going to stay with my dad, so that my thought process is if they needed an alternate, they sent the other guys back to whatever states they were from. I was already there. And I was like, I got to give myself the best shot to, if there's an alternate needed, to be the one that they call. And so after all that, I was told on a Thursday by the producer. He messaged me and said, hey, looks like we're not going to need an alternate. So we can work on the plans of getting you home. So I would already, was figuring that out. So that was like a Thursday. And the next Monday, when I'm getting ready to go out to dinner, they call and they're like, hey, can you make weight on Wednesday? I was like, of course. I don't know anybody says no, but it was like 16 pounds that I had to lose. Wow. So I did go to dinner, had a salad, but immediately bought a sauna suit and started running. And then, so all of that happened within like 12 hours of that meeting that they aired of me meeting with Dana White, which was the very first thing I did. They mic'd me up, took all my stuff, my bags, took my phone, and walked me into a meeting with Dana White. So the part that they, obviously because of editing and film stuff, the meeting was longer than what they could show. But they took the first part where I was still like in shock, and I was like, come on guys, you couldn't make me look better. But no, it was that was a fantastic moment for him to, all the fights that he's seen, all the people he's come across, all the stories that he's heard, and all of that, for him to be excited for that moment with me, because I had met him before through other UFC, cornering Daquan and Joaquin. I'd met him before, but never been the focus of the meeting, more of a peripheral, like, oh, hey, what's up, shakes hand. I've taken a picture with him, but at no point was it a memorable thing for him because of his job and what he does. And so for that moment to be focused on me and for him to be that excited about it, that kind of lifted more drive in me even, and it was just an awesome moment for me to experience.
Now, obviously your now wife is supportive and has been supportive of your journey and the UFC and whatnot. Yeah,
that part is, I don't know the right words, but it's fantastic of all of the things that she's kind of put on her shoulders now, because my job now, the way I'm looking and attacking this, my job now is fighting. and my episode aired and I didn't win the fight, so we know that I'm not getting the UFC contract from the show, but I'm still working towards that goal of doing that. And so we have a little bit of a period of time here where basically she's doing everything, and she's got her main job and a couple other side jobs where she's bringing in money, which is allowing me to just focus on fighting for an unknown, which is crazy.
It is crazy
because there's no fight coming up for me, and if there was, then we could say, okay, at this point you're going to get at least this amount of money, we're going to be good to go. So she's allowing me to take this window of time of my life to really pursue this, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make it work out to where I get to that next level and I do well. But if I don't, she's cool with that also, but she's allowed me to do this, and that way when we move forward in our life well past this period, there's not going to be any part of me that's
regrets.
There's no regrets. There's no resentment of her for not allowing it or whatever. But we're going to be able to move on and be in a good place and look back on this time. And she supported me, and I worked hard for it. And whatever happens, and then we can go on without any bad mistakes there.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I do.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
I don't know what that is. I think that was yours.
Yeah. So I can't say enough good things about my wife and her support of this. And when we first were talking about the show and understanding that I might have to quit my job without hesitation, she was like, "Yeah, do it. Go for it. We'll figure out the rest as we go." And I don't know how many women would do that. I mean, I guess that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that the one that I have did do that,
right.
And it was fantastic.
Now, a lot of people when they hear that you're a professional fighter, just like any professional athlete, they assume that you're just made of money. You got a bunch of money coming in, you have contracts, you have sponsorships. Obviously that's not the case. You're still trying to make it, and you only make money if you win a fight.
Yeah.
Or if you have a sponsorship.
Yeah, we make. Yeah, so if you see professional fighters, even the UFC fighters at the lower levels, I don't know if anybody saw the last weekend's card where Cheyenne Buys was talking how she's broke, and she had a performance where she can get the $50,000 bonus, but that's definitely life changing. She's already in the UFC. That's her second fight in there, and she is flat broke.
Wow.
That's most fighters, because we don't get paid if you fight, and then you get paid to fight, but if you don't win, that's half a paycheck gone. You can't count on the whole bit of it. And
then you got to pay for like your training and whatnot, right?
Training, and then you have your management cost that comes off of the top of that, or coaching costs of that, the corners that come with you, and all that, your gear that you have to pay for. Some of my teammates have really good sponsors that will kick in some cash for them, and they make some posts and support their businesses and all that. I don't have any of that, and it's mostly because of the company I was working for before. I didn't need it. It would have been nice, and actually I'll get to it in a second. There's a couple of people that have helped out quite a bit that I'll give a shout out to, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
But the company that I worked for and the people that I knew were vendors of insurance world, kind of did stuff for us, but I couldn't accept them as sponsorships for anything, even though they would have wanted to, because of, in my job, sometimes you end up in court if you find a case that is fraudulent, and you go that way. Even the appearance of conflict would be me. I know who I am, and I know that I'm not going to hire a vendor because they sponsored me. Like, if you suck at your job, I don't care how much money you give me, I'm going to go with the person who's going to give us the best results as a vendor. I know that, but if you take that anywhere else, the appearance of it just isn't good, so I can never accept any of that. So that small world that I was in during that time, I didn't really need those sponsors, and now that I'm out of it, now I have to actively go try and seek sponsorships out, and it's pretty difficult, especially during this time where most businesses have been shut down for a year. They're trying to figure out how they're paying their bills. They're not going to be able to kick out any money to somebody that makes some posts and support their businesses the best we can. But it's hard for them to do at this moment. So yeah, right now it's basically no money coming in, and so we're chasing something and with no guarantee at the end.
Now, how do you go and find sponsorships? Are you looking for sponsorships like with local businesses, or just anybody? Is it like, would you be looking for like athletic related sponsors? Or?
Sure. At this moment, obviously, I'll basically take sponsorships from anybody. Local businesses would be ideal because there's the um, easiest to push out there because they're in your town and they're places that you frequent or that you believe in. It's not a product that you don't really believe in, but they gave you some money and you want to show something with it. One of my sponsors, who's been with me basically from day one, a buddy of mine, his wife is an eye doctor. And so they, from being amateur all the way through putting their name on my shorts, it's Norton Eye Care in East Lansing. It's off Hagedorn. So anybody who needs an eye doctor, Dr. Jamie Norton is fantastic. Her facilities are so clean. It's so nice. The staff is friendly like that. And I would go to them regardless of sponsorships, but they've been with me and helping out from day one. And so I like local sponsorships like that. Plus it's a friend that has helped me out. And again, it's nothing exorbitant. They give a little bit of money for a sponsorship. I put their logos on my shorts or on my shirt or something like that, and it's great. And I would love to keep sending them and build them up. And as we go, with the idea of sponsorships, when they get in with fighters at the beginning and they help build the fighter will bring those people along with them. It's the ones that jump in like late that the fighter's like, oh, you're only here now because like, where were you when I asked last time? Like, where were you? And again, my education, I've got a master's degree in business. So from the business standpoint, I understand maybe it's not a good idea to take a risk on somebody right away. And so you have to weigh that risk and reward and what you're going to do. So I never, if a business says no or they can't do it, I never take it personally. I understand their side of it. But I'm always like, if people were to, I see with some teammates of mine, or you hear stories of people wanting to jump in towards the end, when you're really big and the big lights are on, you're like, oh, now you want to say, or they'll use that fighter or just athletes in general and be like, oh, I knew them way back then, and the fighter's like, I mean, yeah, I guess you knew me, but like you didn't get on the train with me back then, so now you're trying to get on it now. Train's full.
Right.
So ideally local stuff, man. I would love to get local sponsors and help out those businesses the best that I can, and maybe use some influence I have. Again, I'm not famous by any means at the moment.
Famous to me. I'm like
but maybe people I know, I can get them to their business and really support them and see a small business grow while I grow, and that growing together like that, to me those seem to be the best stories. Like that. So, but yeah, to show the shout outs, I guess I wanted to give, since we're talking about sponsorships, when I came back from the show, a woman named Jamie Weiss, she owns Red Cedar Auto Sales in Williamston. So when I had my job in the insurance company, I had a company car. To give it up, when I came back, I had no money and no car. And so she owns a dealership, and she and our strength and conditioning coach, Justin, are together. And so Justin tells me, they kind of talked absent of me. I didn't even ask for this. And I came back, and she is so nice and is allowing me to use one of the cars from her dealership.
Oh, cool.
And there's no strings attached to this relationship, and it's humbling that somebody would do that for me. I would never expect. I mean, this car is a big thing, and so I'm thankful to Jamie. And so anybody again listening, if you need a car, she didn't ask me to do this. Again, no strings attached to her or what she's done for me, but at least give them a look and see if there's something there. It's Red Cedar Auto Sales in Williamston, Michigan. The other one's not a sponsor, but I brought you a shirt.
Oh, sweet.
So this shirt is not it's not out yet. It was going to be a walkout shirt.
Cool.
So I'm still going to do a sale of these shirts, just trying to work out the logistics, because they're not a sponsor. It's just an organization called Healing Little Hearts. I think it's where's it at? Yeah, down here at the bottom. They're a UK-based charity, and they go around the world and provide free heart surgeries to little kids.
Can you hold it up so we can see?
Yeah. The bottom part here. Oh, it's with the heart. There you go. It's got their Instagram too.
Cool.
On there. It's on the bottom. Yeah, so if you look them up, it's healinglittlehearts.org. There's one in Boston. That's not that one. It's the one in the UK.
Okay.
And I learned about them in Abu Dhabi just in a regular conversation, and I looked them up. And what stuck out to me is that it's like 90% of their donations actually go to the cause. In the U.S., that doesn't happen. It's like 40% is like a high amount of donations.
It's going to overhead.
Yeah. And so, and I've talked with Leslie, who's the woman who started it, a little bit, and she kind of told me how they're able to make it work where so much go to their cause of going all over the world to help little kids who need surgeries on their heart. There's congenital condition. I don't remember the name of it. I'm not a doctor, but it's on their website. But it's fantastic. They go around and just get to help little kids that may not have made it, and they do it absolutely free. And the fact that 90% of the donations go to the actual cause, that's what stood out to me. Their only overhead is like print advertisement and stuff to try to bring in stuff like that. So, the doctors that spend their time, they do it for free, that are doing the surgery. So they go to different countries around the world, and they'll do, I think she called it like a camp, and they're there for a week to 10 days.
Okay.
And, they've already screened the kids to try and help the ones that they can help with the best outcomes. And they come in, they do the surgeries on the kids, and they're in and out, minimal cost, but the doctors are doing it completely for free. So anytime I get a chance to put their name out there, they don't give me any money. When I do end up selling these shirts, I'll put them up on my Instagram.
Okay.
So we have to cover the cost of the shirts, but any money over that is going right to their charity. I'm keeping $0 of it. Wow. And I've got Justin at HPI is going to match whatever donation that I can get for them. It's been in the works for too long, I'll admit, but the show set back a little bit, and because the shirt was supposed to be a walkout shirt for a fight, and that didn't happen because of COVID. So it's taken a little bit of time to get it out there, but I hope to get that out there soon, and then sell some shirts and raise some money for them. I'm hoping to get a couple $1,000s to be able to send to them and their cause, and help some of the kids to get with them doing the surgery to help these little kids out.
Dude, that is awesome.
So the shirt's yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Not even out for sale yet.
I appreciate it. That's awesome. I'm going to wear that on a podcast. Now, what's next for you? You don't have a fight lined up. What's your goals?
So right now, if you've watched seasons of The Ultimate Fighter in the past, contestants oftentimes get a shot in the UFC in the contract. They just don't. They're not the winner. They don't get the big 6-figure contract that the Ultimate Fighter advertises,
right?
And that they provide to the winners. But I'm hoping that I can use that appearance and time in the Ultimate Fighter house to still get into the UFC, and that would ideally be my next fight for the UFC. Nothing's lined up yet. I'm working with some people trying to figure out how we can make that work, but that's the ultimate goal. If that doesn't happen and I have to take a fight on a regional card or something like LFA, that's something obviously I will be doing to then make that next step to the UFC. That's still a goal that hasn't changed since the house. Obviously my performance in the house wasn't what I wanted. It's kind of weird, and I guess I can take this to kind of explain mentality that I had going into that fight, because it was the first fight that I had where those the feelings I told you about, the why and the being afraid, I had them early on, but because I got in the house on a Tuesday, weighed in Wednesday, and fought Thursday, like there was no time for that long anticipation. I had to make the weight. I had to do all the interviews that the other guys had already done because they had been in the house for a couple weeks already. Take all the promo pictures. I didn't have time to think about anything. When I got in the cage, everything was so clear. I felt so comfortable. I felt like I belonged. I wasn't nervous at all for the fight. And my mental space was, I'm ready to go to war with this kid. And at that point, I didn't get to meet him. Gilbert being a fantastic guy. Can't say enough nice things about him, and meeting him so after we fought, I had the rest of the time in the house to get to know him and the other guys as well. Everybody in the house was fantastic. But at that point, to me, he's just a guy. Didn't meet him, didn't have to. All the other guys that fought had been living with them. I didn't have to experience what they did. and I was in there ready to break stuff and bleed, and win or lose, I was like, something's going to happen. And he, rightfully so, understood that it was a tournament, and you don't want to take damage because you're going to have to fight again soon. And so his game plan obviously worked much better than mine, and he went into a fight with the mentality of win with no damage. And I was ready for everything apparently except the takedown, and he never allowed me to get comfortable. And so it's frustrating because of what I was ready for. I didn't come off the street, right? So they're like, oh, less than 48-hour notice, and you stepped in. And I know, and maybe it's just me being either humble or kind of hard on myself, that's not an excuse to me. I was still training out in Vegas. Knowing I was an alternate, I was still out there training. I was training at 2 different gyms, 10th Planet, Las Vegas, and Extreme Couture were kind enough to allow me to come in and get work with them. So it wasn't like I was out of shape or wasn't ready to fight. None of that was a factor. Maybe the experience and meeting Dana White and just getting thrown into that with all of the cameras around you, I don't know how much that takes. But when I got in the cage, I was mentally ready for everything that the fight can offer when it comes to being hurt and really wanting to put on a show. And it was a little bit frustrating that I didn't get to do that because he executed his game plan so perfectly that I didn't get a chance to do any of that. So I want my next fight, whether hopefully it's a UFC fight, but I know that will go in there and I'll definitely be able to see all the work that I put into this for the last 10 years, and that I can fight, and that what they saw on the show wasn't somebody who can't fight. It was just somebody whose opponent executed a perfect game plan, and that's just all that was, which most fighters know and people know and athletes know that does happen. But it really sucks that when I was on the biggest stage and again mentally ready for all of that stuff, for it to happen that way. Again, the loss didn't hurt as bad as just not being able to perform, even close to what I know I'm capable of and what I was ready to do. And again, hats off to Gilbert. He came in and he was treating it like a tournament. I was treating it like, this is where I earned my contract this night, not winning the show, not anything. This night is where I win the contract. And maybe that was the wrong mentality because it didn't work out. But the next fight, when it comes in, there's not going to be anything that I'm not ready for. I will put on the performance, the next one that I was planning on for the show.
So kind of going back, how you were talking about earlier, that you watch film and you try to learn your opponent, going into a fight. What did you learn specifically from the fight with Gilbert, and what are you going to take forward from there?
Well, going into that fight, I didn't know anything about Gilbert, so that's right. I guess that's one of the things that going into it I didn't have my normal preparation for, which again, we train mixed martial arts. You should know other, be ready for everything. But part of my process is seeing what I need to be ready for and practicing it and preparing for it. And it was a situation where I didn't get to do that. What I learned from the fight, I think it's about only like 3 minutes of the fight, but just the way that he took me down, and there's a few things that I could have done to set up. So he caught a kick and was throwing a punch and just did like a far leg takedown, and then just hopped on my back immediately, and the rest of the time I'm just fighting off a choke. So the learning experience part of that fight was the kick that he caught. He caught it because I had faked, call it feinting, but like feint to kick right before. The same exact one is so stupid. I feinted once and I threw the same exact thing again, and so I let him see what it looks like coming in, and he reacted perfectly to it. So just a small little mistake there to where you don't feint something like that and go immediately right back to it. You got to throw your hands with your feet. You can't be one-dimensional in your attack. And like I told you, I like to go out and just touch.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
These wires. I don't know if it's this mic. Sorry, guys.
So, it was a fight where, the next series of attacks I was doing, I wanted to get out and be the one to make that first touch, and again he executed that. So that first 30 seconds, there's so many small little things that I can take from that fight that just won't happen again. I mean, you can't see a mistake and then do it again. Those little things, that little series, it just won't happen again. And so there's a lot to learn even in a short fight like that.
Now, losing that fight kicked you out of the Ultimate Fighter?
No,
you're still in.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, so you're out of the tournament, right? You can't win the contract.
Okay.
You're still in the house the rest of the time. So I was in there the rest of the time, watched the other fights, trained with the other guys, helped the other members of my team train for, that were still in the tournament up for their coming fight. So it's not like you lose and then you're out type thing. If you lose the fight, you're still on the show, you're still in the house, and you're still training with your team, which is also fantastic, getting to train with Brian Ortega and Henry Gracie. Because the ground game is something that is the weakest part of my game. My losses have all come by submissions. And so being able to learn from Henry Gracie and just even small little tips that he can give me, or that he did give me, and having that resource, him and Brian Ortega, to be able to reach out to in any future scenario is amazing and will definitely benefit my game going forward. But the jiu-jitsu part is something from the show. It's like I knew that I needed to work on it more, but it's like I kind of did, but now I need to fall in love with that like I did striking, which has happened. So I like our jiu-jitsu days. I really focus on those, and I'm learning those things just to not repeat the same mistakes, and just get caught in the same things. Because when you get caught, in submissions, oftentimes it's just a small little mistake that the other person capitalized on. And with those mistakes, you have to know the counters to those mistakes. And if I'm not working on those positions there, I'm just not going to have them. And you can't learn those. And, I was with Henry Gracie for like 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes max, before I was going into arguably the biggest fight of my life, or biggest opportunity of my life. And he can only teach me so much, where Gilbert is very experienced on the ground. So I'm in my corner, in the episode you can hear my corner, yelling out different things, and I'm doing the things that are telling me to, step by step, but I hadn't put enough time into it to where it's muscle memory. So I'm doing them at a baby level, step by step by step. One, Gilbert can hear the coaches also. It's the Apex Center. There's no fans in there. They hear them, but he's also well versed in it. So he knows that, okay, if I'm going to this step, he's just skipping me and going to the next one. So the whole time he was
a step ahead.
way step ahead. And I'm just working to make sure that that's not an Achilles heel for me moving forward in the future fights. And maybe I can get some submissions of my own with the work that I'm putting in here, versus relying on my hands and feet.
Now, how often again are you training in jiu-jitsu?
We do a lot of work every day. Some day we call them flow rows. So you're just rolling and just getting a position with your teammates and chasing submissions. So you're not punching each other. You're just chasing submissions. But we've got a jiu-jitsu coach coming in on Thursday, and those practices are really hard. We take a skill or a set of skills at the beginning of practice. You drill them, and then you try to work them out live. And so then we have that skill that we've drilled, and then we will continue to use that in the other practices. And then we get another jiu-jitsu practice, and you kind of build on those skills. So he's very clearly moving us, from a position, and we're practicing that position, and then we'll go to another position. So in a real fight, it's the progression of how that position goes. So we're learning them in succession of how they would typically go in a fight, both offensively and defensively.
My wife and I took our first jiu-jitsu class last week.
Okay.
And that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had a blast.
Where do you go?
So this girl I had on the podcast, I've known her since I was like a teenager. She owns a hair salon, and she also owns a jiu-jitsu gym, like upstairs. But it's called Beauty and Beast. It's on the north side.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Are you doing gi or no gi?
No gi.
No gi?
Yep. Do you do no gi?
Only no gi. Because of MMA, we don't have the clothes on.
Right.
A lot of people love gi that do it, and most people start out with that. I've never done gi. It's, from my understanding, completely different. A lot slower paced, like that. But practically no gi is what I need to know. Because in MMA, you start to get sweaty, and you put somebody in a triangle, and that arm slips right out when it's sweaty if you don't have it locked up tight enough, or you're not at the right angle. Where in gi, you can kind of hold the collars and kind of hold people there that way.
Now, are you training like Gracie style? Because I know the form of jiu-jitsu that we're training is more of Gracie type. She was kind of saying that it like there's sports jiu-jitsu, and then there's like Gracie style.
So I guess I'm not versed in the different styles versus like explain like that.
Let
But
me
they
take my headphones off.
okay. They do have the like Eddie Bravo style combat. There's combat jiu-jitsu where they like slap each other. So there's limited strikes, but there's open palm strikes in that.
Okay.
And that was meant to show that what positions in jiu-jitsu are vulnerable in real life. Because in real life, if something happens, somebody's not going to let you, sit there and tie them up without trying to smack you in the face. So that they do a lot of that. That's on UFC Fight Pass. They have tournaments. There's submission-only grappling tournaments where they chase submissions only, and then if there's a certain amount of times reached, I think the judges kind of pick the best. That part's very subjective. The ones that I've seen, I don't know how they pick a winner. There's no point system, and I think there's some forms of jiu-jitsu that have points. The Gracie system and what Henner is doing now, he does a lot of teaching people self-defense and teaching people the lifestyle of jiu-jitsu like that. And that's my understanding, and then following him on Instagram and seeing the things that he's doing. It's all very, very effective, whether it's MMA or self-defense. I've competed in one jiu-jitsu tournament a while ago. I got worked really bad. But I do plan, now that I'm learning more and focusing more on that area of my game, I do plan on getting into some tournaments and trying to compete in only that, to where I can't rely on anything else like punches and kicks and you do in a fight, and really focus on those and just getting better in that area.
Now, when you're going into a fight, I kind of want to wrap this up soon, but when you're going into a fight, like a fight camp, how long before a fight are you going into fight camp?
That is never a constant. Ideally would be 8 weeks, where you can start your diet, start to get your body adjusted to that diet, and then working on that diet. Because when in MMA, other sports, you want to have a lot of calories. You need a lot of calories because you're going to be exerting them and being explosive in your sport. That's also true in MMA, but you have to combine the weight cut. So you have to be able to train hard and effective on a caloric deficit, because weight loss can be it's real simple. Burn more calories than you put in. And there's a lot of ways to do that, and a lot of dietitians that are professionals on that, but it really boils down to burn more than you're putting in. And we have to be comfortable in training at a high level with less fuel. And so 8 weeks, in my experience, seems to be the best of getting your body to that point where you can do that and slowly get your weight down. But in reality, it could be 2 days. Like I was on The Ultimate Fighter week. Daquan Townsend took his first UFC fight on 3 days, and I think he was the short. He had like the record for the shortest notice fight. I think one person has beat him since, so it's like the second now. But that's 3 days.
Did he win that fight?
No, but he had to lose like 30 pounds. We drove out to Minnesota and helped him drop that weight, and so there's no time of thinking about the fight or anything. It's just all weight cut. I think standard. I think if there were to average, my guess would be people get 4 weeks, and that's enough. And if you're like me and most of the guys that are doing this, you're kind of staying ready, right? You may not be sticking to your diet 100%, but you're still training, and so a month is also still very reasonable to do that. So right now, because I'm not working and I'm focusing only on fighting, I'm considering this entire time a camp. So I am training hard like it's camp. If there was a fight on Saturday, I'd be ready for a fight on Saturday because of how much work I've been putting into it up to this point.
Now, you don't think that'll have a negative effect on you, where you're training this hard for an endless amount of time?
It is possible that there's a what's the right way to say it, like a diminishing return effect on that, but I'm nowhere near that at the moment. I mean, there'll be a point in time where if I start to feel broken down physically, that I can take a few days off and recover that way, but I'm not there yet. So I guess we'll see how long. I hope to get a fight well before that happens. Um, so there's two or three more episodes of The Ultimate Fighter
Okay.
before the finale. Um, all of the fights in the house and all the people were great. So I encourage people to still watch it. Follow all those guys. They all have great stories. They're all working towards the same goal. That I am. This season of The Ultimate Fighter, I think, best reflects the evolution of MMA itself. So the early on seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, you saw people getting really drunk in the house and breaking doors and fighting each other in the house. This season, I don't. There's not even much footage on the episode of people at the house because everybody was so respectful, so nice of each other's space, talking, learning about each other. You know, I was sharing a bedroom with Gilbert, and as a guy that I fought in the house, and so we had an opportunity to get to know each other as well. You know, and everybody got to do that, and it was all business. We trained hard, they fought hard, and in the house it was just respectful, and that's exactly where MMA has come from, where it started of just people being brutally tough, and now they're tough, skilled, and respectful most of the time. Again, you need to sell tickets, you need to get people excited about fights. Sometimes there's real beef, you know, if of somebody that you're fighting. Some people do that it's real, some people do it as fake. All that's always going to be there, and that makes the sport always exciting. But the way that this season went, in my experience, and from the other guys, is everybody was so respectful, and we all were there for the same goal. And we knew that the other guys were there for the same goal and working for the same thing, and there was a respect towards that. But when it came to the guys fighting in the cage, all that was gone. It was a fight. You fought each other, and immediately afterwards, friends again. I mean, I think
That's cool.
one of the episodes you saw, Dan and Ricky share a piece of pizza after they went to a massive war, a 3-round fight, beating each other up, and they just had a pizza and a talk afterwards, and it was a fantastic experience, and I think that's where the sport is now from where it was, and there's a lot more room to grow with that. So the show allows the fans the opportunity to get inside the lives of the fighters outside of the cage and really get to know them, and I think anybody that watches the show is going to be a fan of every single fighter in the house. So I hope people that haven't watched it go back and catch up, and they continue watching it when it's all done.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people MMA has kind of gotten a bad rap as far as like the persona people put on. I mean, because people see the pre-fight interviews and the weigh-ins, and they're like, okay, there's tension there, but it's for entertainment purposes for the most part.
Yeah, I think some of that tension is again, you're getting into a fight with this person,
right? You're going to war,
and maybe at that moment in time you don't like them, but most of the men that I know, as kids, they got into little fights in the playground and all of that. The people that you fought almost always became your friend because there was a mutual respect there after you've gone through something like that. The physical, violence or the fight or something like that, versus people who just like talk and bicker or talk behind each other's back. They'll never be friends. But the people who are just like, all right, it's time, and they throw down, and then afterwards they're like, all right, that's done, we can move on, we're friends, fair play on you.
Now, what is your diet like when you're, obviously right now you're kind of in training camp, so what's your diet like in training camp versus when you're out of training camp? And
right now, I don't. So I'm hanging around about 195. That cut to 170 it does suck, but this is the weight that I want to hang around. So my diet is, I'm not discriminating against any food. If I want to have a hamburger, I have a hamburger. But it's food that I can use as fuel for practice, but maintain this weight.
Right.
And then when I get, like, if I were to get a call, I could make weight 170. It would suck, but I can make it relatively short time. But I drink a ton of water. I have a gallon of water with me. I fill it up a couple times a day, on average. Obviously, give or take a little bit. But when I start to cut the weight, there's any adult drinks off the table. That helps clean out your body. Even more water to try and consume less food to start, because you have to, and I don't know if this is scientific, but it's what it feels like, shrinking your stomach and getting to a point, the first week or so, when you're eating less food, it really sucks. You feel hungry, but once you get past that point, you no longer feel hungry, so it's easy to cut the weight. And I'll eat things like a peanut butter sandwich, just peanut butter and the bread,
Oof.
and that'll give you the protein from the peanut butter, and then you'll have the carbs that you need to get through practice. And it's really boring and bland, but it's just real easy to do.
You have to give your body something to burn off
Yeah.
in order to sustain and keep going.
Yeah, and a sandwich is what, like, I don't know, 6 ounces at most, depending on how much
Right.
peanut butter. I mean, so water is really, when you get closer to weight, that's the enemy. I've made the mistake before of cutting a bunch of weight, and it's almost like your body can't control itself. If I were to go to a water fountain, I put it all back on. But this is a pound, and it would take me, like 30 minutes to an hour to run this off. Where I would rather have, a little bit of food or fruit or something to give me some of the calories.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get closer to weight like that. So I'm not a vegan. I'm not I'm not on the all meat diet or anything like that.
You just eat everything?
I eat everything, and just kind of I lower the portion size, of what I'm eating systematically down. I don't eat late at night. I cut that out and just kind of slowly taper it down until the last couple weeks I'm eating, a little bit of maybe turkey cubes or something, like the P3 packs.
Okay.
Those are perfect because it tells you that there's 3 ounces in
Right.
there, and I know that I'm only eating 3 ounces, because at that point it comes to the actual weight of the food that you're eating versus what you're eating at that moment. And I mean, there's better foods to eat that will give you more bang for your buck, more energy for lower amount of ounces. But those P3 packs have been great for me. And again, like a peanut butter sandwich or half a peanut butter sandwich, that gives me plenty of energy to get through a practice, and I burn it off real quick.
Now, do you take any supplement? What kind of supplements do you take? Do you take any?
So I try to take supplements, but I've never been consistent with them at all.
You don't take vitamins?
I take vitamin D,
Okay.
and I take a glucosamine supplement.
What's that?
It's for joints.
Okay.
And then I take cordyceps mushrooms
Okay.
before practice. So it's Shroom Tech Sport is the Onnit brand of it, and the cordyceps mushrooms really help. It's like almost like a pre-workout, but
Okay.
you don't have the like the tingly feeling. I can't stand that word.
I
It feels
can't.
like needles
Yeah,
coming.
yeah.
I don't like that. So I'll usually take that about midday, and at practice I feel that it kind of helps. I can definitely tell when I don't have them or don't take them. But
Okay.
supplement wise, not much, man. I don't take.
You have to be careful too, right? As far as what you take in case you have a negative or a bad test, I guess.
Yeah. So we met with the UFC's anti-doping people who work with USADA. So the UFC has outsourced their drug testing to USADA so that it's independent, so that there's again, we were talking about conflict of interest. If the UFC were doing it, and let's say Conor McGregor somehow tested positive for something, the money that he brings into the UFC, they might be able to say, push it to the side. USADA being the third party, they don't allow any of that. So we had a meeting with them, and once you're signed with the UFC, you get entered into the USADA program, and you give them a list of everything that you have taken. And
within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but you can just tell them everything so that they know, because if something shows up on a test that you didn't tell them about, that's a problem. They don't hold a lot against you from being pre-signed.
Okay.
But I mean, if you were on like
testosterone or
steroids, you wouldn't be able to fight. They would make you get to a point where it's no longer in your system before you could fight. But other things that might be not necessarily full on steroids that are banned, because a lot of things at GNC are banned substances based on USADA. Yeah.
Oh.
If you look on the labels of supplements, they give us a sheet. There's a tag on it that says, I think, NSF, and there's a couple other ones. But that means that they say if we take the ones that have that label on there, we are safe, because if that supplement is tainted, they can trace that particular supplement back to the batch and find out what it's tainted with. Is that what you tested positive for, and was there a contamination of that particular supplement?
Wow.
So there's a lot of supplements out there that will pay the money to go through that third-party testing to get those labels on there so that professional athletes can take them. But me, with supplements, I just never been consistent with it. I forget about it. I don't know. Even in college, when they give you stuff, and I try it, and then I just forget, because I don't know. I don't feel. I don't want to rely on certain things like that, and I just feel like maybe just hard work will help with that. And there's definitely
Yep.
supplements that 1,000% work,
Mhm.
and if you were consistent with them, they would work. But
Yep.
I never have, from being little all the way up through. I'll dabble with creatine. I keep giving that a go sometimes. I just don't take it enough for it to make any
Right.
difference.
Yeah, you got to be like real strict about taking creatine.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for that.
Well, and yeah, so this is the same with me. So I take it and I don't see the results because it's not fast enough, and I got to remember to keep taking it, and I just forget. Protein, I was having a protein powder when I was in Abu Dhabi because I lost a lot of weight the first time that I went out there. It was so hot, and the food has such a different taste that I just didn't like it right away.
Mhm.
And being so hot, I can't eat when I'm hot, and so I was just eating fruit. And so I lost like 15 pounds in like 3 days. And so
Wow.
the UFC nutritionist people, they actually gave me some protein. And I was like, here, take this. And I gained some of the weight back doing that. But again, I was consistent there because I needed it in order to keep my weight on. But I try it to bulk up and get big. But I was like, just lift some weights maybe or practice harder.
Well, man, it's been a real pleasure having you on. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any more shout outs you want to give or before we wrap this up?
No, I think I appreciate you and your time and reaching out
Absolutely.
to me. And I obviously wish success more of your podcast, and hopefully we can get some viewers there. And a lot of people, when I did the Instagram post today, would ask me, "Is it live? Where can I watch it?" So hopefully we get some of that. And I appreciate you doing this, and it's awesome that there's a local place here in Lansing doing this and giving people a platform to get their voices out there. So I appreciate you.
Yeah,
You invited me.
absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks for being here.